Well, it's good to be back down here. This is always something that we look forward to, being able to experience it last year as the first time. Much more comfortable coming down here, knowing what to expect with the obviously the large crowd, and the passion that's down here in Southern Indiana speaks for itself. So it's good to be back. Our off season has been a little bit quieter than some in the past. It's been a little longer. Our guys have been working very hard up until they left for school, and then they got about a 3.5 to 4 week break before we'll begin our summer program, which starts, realistically this weekend. Our returners will be back, all of them, and then upon graduation of our incoming freshmen, they'll join us on June 12th. So as a staff, we're really excited to take it into phase 2. Our returning guys had a good spring, and I think their knowledge of how we do things is really going to help accelerate our young guys when they get here this summer. We're looking forward to the additional time that the NCAA has granted us on the court, and we're going to try and take advantage of more time on the floor with them as much as possible, because I think this is a team that relatively going to have an influx of young talent, new people, and our returning guys coming back are going to have to mesh. So this is sort of an opportunity to really blend this summer. So we're happy about that. Our staff is intact. Very excited about how our staff interacted in our first year, but more importantly, how we've been able to develop as a group and moving into this second year. That continuity is just so important for our team, and having those voices around is important. So we're excited. Our off season's getting ready to get started. It'll be busy, and then moving into obviously summer recruiting and whatnot. So it'll be a fast summer.
Yesterday's news that Juwan will be back. It'd be great to hear that.
Yeah, all these guys are going to have choices from this point forward. This is going to become a common theme in college basketball. It's going to be a theme of which, these kids are going to give themselves an opportunity for more time and more information, and as long as it takes them to get it, I think they're going to have it. So as a coaching staff, you really have to take a step back. Open lines of communication are really important in these situations, that the accurate information is always being shared. And in Juwan's case, he did a great job. He and his family have been really a joy to be around and work with. Juwan had a number of workouts with teams. He got to be able to be in those settings, which is what we wanted. He got the feedback, and as he and his family talked with us, he and his family talked with themselves. The opportunity to come back to Indiana as a senior, the opportunity to impact the program was the overwhelming theme. His improvement, the stage that I think he wants to be on, and for our staff in general, we want Juwan to be in a situation that, one, he's contending for a great season with a team, but B, having an opportunity to get drafted. That's his goal, and we're going to work very hard for him, like we do all our guys, to put him in a situation where he can be successful.
How was Duran doing? I guess his time frame.
Yeah, Duran. Duran. It's been documented. Obviously, he had the ruptured Achilles in January. Took him out. It's a difficult surgery from anyone to come back to. A guy like Duran, who's that size, who can put on some weight, when he's not allowed to do anything, it makes it just a little bit more difficult. But we've taken him very slow. He's done a really nice job here in the last 3 to 4 weeks as he's been in summer school by himself, of exclusively just really working on his rehab. But we're taking it slow. I think it's going to be a slow process where he's got to get himself into a situation where he can start to feel comfortable running. From running, obviously then start the conditioning. But from a contact perspective and basketball perspective, I don't think that Duran will be ready for that this summer. I think we'll be pushing towards, obviously our fall program and then moving into November. But we have to take it slow, and we have to be really mindful of how he communicates and how he feels. And, just in talking to Tim Garl here this last week, I think Juwan's really strung together some good, Duran is, strung together some really good days, and I think he's progressing.
What are the key things for Romeo when he gets on campus to be ready to maximize his freshman year?
Well, Romeo's ready to go to work. I mean, he's a basketball guy. He's a willing learner. Anytime you've ever been around him, he sucks everything out of you in terms of information. So he's a great student of the game. His talent speaks for itself. Getting acclimated to college is the first step, though. He and his classmates getting the ability to go to class, getting the ability to study for the first time in a college setting, having a schedule where you're working out and you're lifting, and the rigors of the pace start to pick up. So these 6 weeks for all those guys, not just Romeo, is a great opportunity for them to get acclimated, not only with the program and how things go, but just their own timetable and whatnot. But for him, he's a great teammate. He's always been about winning. I think as he's coming into the fold right now, he's ready to get to work with the other guys, and we're going to put him and all of our guys in an environment where they're pushing it, they're getting better, but at the same time want to see some competition this summer. And to be able to see how these guys work together and fit together is going to be fun. But I think Romeo will handle it fine.
When did you first hear from Romeo that he had committed? When did you know that he had?
When we watched the television show and he put the hat on, I think that everyone was pretty much in the same boat, and that was how that process was going to go all the way through. And when he was ready to make a decision, I think we would all find out one way or another.
It's pretty nerve-wracking to go through that.
It's a long year, a long process. I mean, you go through ups and downs in recruiting every kid. I thought we had a pretty good momentum going there at the end, especially with him deciding maybe to do it into Albany. I thought that was good, but we didn't know for 100%.
How's Devontae been during the spring?
Devontae had a really good spring. Just him as an individual, I thought he really had a good mindset coming off of the season. He showed glimpses at times where he could really be one of the better guards in the league at times for how we did things. I thought towards the end of the season he was our most consistent ball handling guard. But he took a step back, I think, when the season ended. And when we got into our spring program, I thought in our conversations he's starting to take his game a little bit more serious. He's starting to take the approach of his own individual pride in what he is and how he does it and go up a level. And he did that. I thought our 6-week program in the spring, he was as consistent as any. Focused a lot on his shooting the ball in the spring, and he really improved. So we're ready to get started here with him next week.
Who are some other guys that you saw make some pretty big leaps this spring and that you expected the same this summer?
All of our returning guys who came off the season worked extremely hard. I think they all got great production in the weight room. They all had great production with the spring program on the floor with the coaches. You can go down on each guy, and I can pretty much tell you exactly how they improved, where they improved. But it was a group approach. We had about 7 or 8 guys back. I think each guy took it to themselves, obviously, to get to work very quickly, needed their bodies to recover. Once we finished school, I thought it was good for everyone to get away for a little bit. Sometimes that 3 or 4 week period really recharges you, so I'm excited. Hopefully all those guys will be back ready to go.
Where do things stand with the non-conference schedule as a whole?
It's building. The non-conference schedule right now, it's just a challenging thing to do, especially in our last 2 seasons with the Big Ten schedule impacting a lot of what you do doing, just regarding dates. And, when you move to 20 games, you move to finding out whether you're in the ACC Big Ten, whether you're in the Gavitt. We already have the Crossroads. We're holding a lot of time frames for these TV announcements. So when the TV announcements come in, that really helps us shore some things up just in getting it. But I think our non-conference schedule this year will be more difficult than last year's. We have to challenge ourselves. Our league in general last year, from a non-conference standpoint, just quite frankly didn't get the job done, and that's why our league in general, as the course of our season went along and you had good wins, we just didn't get any credit for that in the Big Ten, and that was something that I think as a league we addressed this spring. So, moving forward, this non-conference schedule, we're hopeful it'll get done here in the next couple weeks. We'll hopefully find out our ACC opponent here, hopefully within a day or so, with what TV does. But, already having Marquette and Louisville in Assembly Hall is great. Understanding that we're going to have a couple early Big Ten games again within that first week, knowing that's coming off, and then you have the Indianapolis game with Butler. You're going to probably have an ACC game on the road. So I would suspect that our finish to November and our finish through December would be a gauntlet, and that's what our league is sort of trying to figure out right now, how our league addresses really in coming off of an exempt event or coming off of something right into the challenge, and then all the way through the early Big Ten, and then you finish off with your Louisvilles and your Butlers and whatnot. So, I think it's going to be very challenging for our team. We need to challenge ourselves earlier, better than we did a year ago, just in terms of, practice starts earlier, how we're going to approach our exhibitions. We have to be ready earlier because I think we're going to have a few marquee games early, but I think our December is going to be very difficult.
Coach,
The Pittsner grad transfer coming about?
Just recruiting, and these guys who graduate, they find their niche, they find their interest level, and Evan was a guy that we targeted pretty early with his skill set. He's something he brings to the table that we really like. He's a great kid, and once he joins the team, I think he's going to be an added weapon for us.
Coach, as far as the team, you talked about coming in this year, how much easier is it going to be to have the returning players already on the same page as opposed to having to deprogram and reprogram?
Yeah, year one's really hard. You're teaching your staff, you're teaching your players. Everyone's kind of in the same lump. Year two, you don't teach your staff and you don't teach the guys that are back. So, that's a big chunk of the pressure that's kind of off in terms of trying to integrate. It's still difficult to bring in such a young group with 5 freshmen, and even an older guy like Evan, his experience is great, but he's going to learn new. But having 5 freshmen come into the fold and having to depend on some of these guys here early, that's going to be the unique thing. That's why you need your older guys, at least your 1-year returners, to be rock solid in what you're doing every day. And I feel like our returners have really set themselves up to be a group that people can look at and say, this is how we do it. Just talking to Juwan yesterday, his motivation to get the freshmen here and just kind of get rolling is something that's exciting for our staff, because last year at this time it was all new, and it's not as new now, which is a good thing, but you're still changing.
What do you think Race got out of last season to redshirt year?
Race really took advantage of his redshirt season. Number one, he took advantage of the physical development. The difference between him graduating high school right now and him going through the 9 months in a strength and conditioning program and then also practicing every day, that's a big advantage for a guy like him. He also knows how we practice and how we work out, and he's familiar with all that. He didn't have the pressure of having to play. So being in practice every day, working on his game, going against first-team guys, I think he got a lot better. But he's got a long way to go. And just in talking to him this offseason, continuing to develop his offensive game away from the basket is something that we've talked a lot about. But Race is a tough kid. He showed that last year, and I think he's a guy that will mix it up for us.
Okay. We're out of time with
Thank
Coach
you.
Miller. He'll be out there speaking.